Go there, make a call, then come by in the evening and we'll go together.
It has become known why the Kremlin actually expelled the famous stand-up comedian Nurlan Saburov from Russia. Various versions have been discussed online, with some saying he criticized Russia's war in Ukraine. Some say that he violated Russia's migration laws and didn't pay taxes, while others even claim that Saburov was accused of money laundering in Russia. Saburov himself is remembered by reasonable viewers for his scandalous insult of a Ukrainian girl in the United States back in 2022 when she tried to draw attention to the killings of civilians in Ukraine by Russian occupiers. And so today, Nurlan Saburov was not allowed into Russia and was banned from entering for 50 years. The reason turned out to be that the Russian authorities banned stand-up comedian Nurlan Saburov from entering the country after he refused to cooperate with the Federal Security Service of Russia. It turned out that the Federal Security Service agents tried to turn Saburov into a spy. They offered him to get a Russian passport and go to war against Ukraine, but Saburov allegedly refused to follow the Kremlin's orders, which is why he was kicked out of Russia. But as they say, this is just the beginning. The best part is coming up. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. The link is in this video's description where we post breaking news as it happens.
And call someone, okay? Right now I'm telling you, you'll go there and there you'll make the call.
The authorities of the Russian Federation have banned the well-known stand-up comedian Nurlan Saburov, a citizen of Kazakhstan. By the way, he was banned from entering Russia for 50 years because of his criticism of the war in Ukraine and violations of migration and tax laws. That's the official version. The decision was made back on January 30, quote, "In the interests of national security, compliance with the law, and the protection of traditional spiritual and moral values." On the night of February 6, Saburov arrived at Moscow's Vnukovo airport from Dubai, where he had been filming a commercial, and at passport control he was taken to a separate room and given a document banning him from entering Russia. Earlier, the comedian had his concerts cancelled in several Russian cities, which the organizers explained as being due to unspecified circumstances. And then Russian media began reporting that Saburov owns property in the Russian Federation worth more than 60 million rubles, and that he, quote, tried to legalize the money he earned in Russia through intermediaries. Simply put, Saburov was trying to launder money. But the most interesting thing is that the Kremlin admitted they forced Saburov to get a Russian passport and support the war against Ukraine, but he refused because he was afraid of sanctions. Well, you know, he wanted to have his cake and eat it too, for those who don't know. Saburov is a popular Kazakh and Russian stand-up comedian and host. He became famous as a resident of the stand-up show on TNT channel and as the host of the YouTube show What Happened Next. But this comedian is remembered by the Ukrainian audience for the fact that in the spring of 2022, during his tour in the United States, he did not give a direct answer to a question about his position. At the beginning of the Russian aggression against Ukraine, after that, actions by Ukrainian activists started taking place at his concerts. And at one of the concerts in the United States, Saburov admitted that he is afraid to express his position because he fears for the safety of his family.
Sorry, is this a period? What's going on?
Well, in this video, it's still Saburov's tour in the United States in the spring of 2022 at one of the concerts. A Ukrainian activist ran up to the stage with red stains on her white dress. And this outfit symbolized the blood of Ukrainian residents who were killed by Russian occupiers. The woman was immediately escorted out of the hall, but at that moment Saburov said into the microphone, quote, "Is that a period?" This showed how little he cares about the war's victims. By the way, after that incident, Saburov had some of his concerts in the United States and Israel cancelled, but until the very end, Saburov never spoke out about Russia's war against Ukraine. But why was such a passionate fan of Russia taken and kicked out of Russia? The publication Important Stories writes that the Russian authorities banned stand-up comedian Nurlan Saburov from entering the country after he refused to cooperate with the Federal Security Service. Sources of the publication clarified that the initiator of the ban was the Service for the Protection of the Constitutional Order and the Fight Against Terrorism of the Federal Security Service, known as the Second Service. According to the publication's source, the comedian was summoned several times for conversations at the Federal Security Service building on Lubyanka, where they tried to negotiate cooperation. However, Saburov allegedly tried to brush them off. In 2025, according to the source, Saburov was given an ultimatum: either sign a contract with the armed forces of the Russian Federation and go to war against Ukraine for 1 year, or leave Russia. But Russians aren't Nazis. The guy on the floor is Kazakh, some acquaintance. Saburova, who spoke with the Important Stories publication, also claims that Saburov tried to prove his loyalty to the Russian authorities. He donated 10 motorcycles for the needs of the special military operation and transferred 2 million rubles to the All for Victory fund. Well, he was kind of trying to show like, no, what are you talking about? I'm with you, I'm one of you, and so on, but none of that helped him. And by the way, this matches other facts. In May 2025, Saburova was previously detained for violating Datelstvo's migration law. At that time, he was fined 5,000 rubles and was required to leave Russia within a specified period, with the possibility of legally re-entering at the end of 2025. Concerts of Nurlan Saburov began to be cancelled en masse in Russian cities, including Abninsk, Ryazan, Omsk, Yekaterinburg, Nizhnevartovsk, and Tyumen. And each time the organizers referred to unspecified circumstances, but most likely they were called by the Federal Security Service. But it's important to note that, according to Important Stories, the Service for the Protection of the Constitutional Order of the Federal Security Service is involved in this story. Previously, it was mentioned in investigations by Insider, Bellingcat and Der Spiegel as a unit involved in political persecution, including the poisoning of Alexei Navalny and Vladimir Kara-Murza. So Saburov, who worked so hard to stay out of trouble, so... Actually, they gave compatible explanations. That's based on the facts, so it's a cavalier pulp. Bangraya helped Castore, while Napoli helped the Fifth. Kind of like a YouTube channel. I'm grateful for any support you provide through donations or subscriptions via the links in this video's description. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.